You're listening to another episode of the Phillies Sports Jabronis. Tonight's podcast is being recorded live at Capone's Restaurant, Bar, and Bottle Shop in Norristown, Pennsylvania. And now, on with the show.
Philly Sports Jabronis. I'm Joe Dara with Mike Greger, Rob Sr., Jamie Toman, and Carlos Slade.
What's up, ladies?
We've also we got a couple ladies at the table here, actually.
There you go.
One who's willing to be introduced. We have a guest here, Janelle Kreider. We want to thank once again for having a fan join in the conversation.
Salute.
She is going to conversate with us at her leisure. And we look forward to her hating on Sam Hinkie. Okay, so down goes Cleveland.
Down goes Cleveland. New champs in town.
Someone else's turn to talk.
Definitely the biggest basketball-related loss of any fandom at this table this week related to Philadelphia. Let's just get that out of the way first. There were no other important basketball games won by Philadelphia this week over teams that people at this table root for.
Okay, now with that being said, let me do a couple more due diligence things here. We are live at Capone's, and want to thank the staff for having us once again. As Rob so colorfully,
confusingly, you can say it took you guys about 20 seconds to laugh.
Hatingly.
Stated, the Sixers do have a big win, and it's up to one's opinion whether or not there were any big basketball wins for Philadelphia or the Philadelphia region or an area somewhere near the Philadelphia region. Within the last week, we are going to absolutely get into the Villanova aspect of things. We actually didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about Villanova this year, but we're going to a little later on talk about where Villanova ranks in the whole, are they Philly, are they not Philly? For me though, I do want to quickly go on record for saying that Philadelphia, it feels like Philadelphia is in 2018 2 for 2 on opportunities to host major sports parades, and then we'll get more into it there. Prior to that, and for the here and now, we are going to do some Sixers talk where we think the Sixers are going. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks per se. I mean, this is a team that we kind of has known was going to make the playoffs for quite a while, but in the last 2 weeks or so, they've gone from 6th place to 3rd place.
Yeah, my pocket got lighter.
Yeah, Jamie's got a little heavier. And so we're going to absolutely circle the wagons here and talk about where we think the Sixers are headed now as what looks like a surefire 3rd seed in the East versus what we might have thought a couple weeks ago. And we're going to get into the Flyers a little bit, talk about what their prospects may be. As we at least know that they're going to have the Sixers and the Flyers in some way, shape, or form are going to have a chance to give us as many as 4 parades. Go 4 for 4 in parade opportunities. In 2018, year of our Lord. And we'll touch a little bit on Gabe Kapler, who we can only hope at this point that the Phillies can sneak their way into a postseason berth this year and keep the potential parade vibe going. But certainly, I want to get everyone's thoughts on one of the more hot button issues right now in Philadelphia, and that being Gabe Kapler. Because look, it just wouldn't be Philadelphia if all we had to talk about was good things and parades and possible parades. No, we need to set the city on fire because we want to coach out of here after a couple days because there just has to be someone to rag on, right? Vintage Philadelphia, love it, but hate it at the same time. Okay, so as I said before, down goes Cleveland. Sixers look like they're going to lock up the number 3 seed. LeBron is... I was going to say he's probably stewing in his juices right now, but he's actually probably on the court. They got a game today, I think. They're going to try. They're now chasing the Sixers. If they win, they have a chance to own the 3rd seed. But that looks pretty unlikely. Sixers did get their win today against where we are. Let people know we're recording on Sunday afternoon, which is just a couple hours after the Mavericks game for 15 in a row. 14 in a row for the 50th win. Guys, jump in and let me hear your Sixers positive vibes, so now you got them.
Okay, someone playing for me. Money's coming out of my pocket for this one. It's something actually going to be glad to pay, but I don't like to lose, so it's semi-bittersweet. That being said, they've been on a roll for the longest time now, and the thing I like the best about the Sixers is the fact that they sit there and it's not even close. They're blowing people out that deserve to be blown out. They're blowing backs out like Bob Backlund all day. And that's the kind of team you want going into the playoffs. They're peaking at the right time.
Let me ask you this real quick. I'm going to let you continue. Is it weird that it all does, or am I completely alone in this? Is anyone else like almost forgetting that Joel Embiid got hurt and the season like almost felt like it was going to be derailed maybe a couple days ago?
No, you're not alone in that. I think the thing is most people are at this point I don't want to say pleasantly surprised, but we're sitting there riding without him and still sitting there and basically exerting dominance on everyone that deserves to be dominated. And at that point, that's kind of a mark of a good team. Someone sat there and said, good teams win, great teams cover.
I heard that before.
I heard that before too. They're slowly inching their way to, I don't want to say greatness yet, but they're starting to work their way to that neighborhood where you can sit there and do it without your key cog. And at that point, it's going to be a fun playoff to watch.
Yeah, I like the sound of 50.
Now, did you win $50? Did you win $50?
Yeah,
all right.
that was the bet.
How very serendipitous.
For the listening audience, right before the season started, I bet Los that the Sixers would finish 4th seed or better, which was money I was writing off for most of the early part of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
Given this late push that we got there, but I mean, just the way they've done it too. Beginning of the season, I thought Fultz was going to come in and be an immediate contributor, and he's played 10 games, maybe max at this point. And even when he is playing, he's playing 10 to 14 minutes, and he's out. So definitely not the makeup I thought to get there. I didn't think they'd win 50. I thought high 40 was a number, and I thought that number in the East would have been good enough for that 4. So I'm excited about a home series. That place is going to be lit. That first series, and I'm just really looking forward to the playoffs.
Does 50 go to the Creech Fund?
It's funny you say that because it was rocking obviously on Friday night, and I'm thinking to myself, I wasn't at the game, but I was there, I was watching. I'm thinking to myself, I was like, man, that stadium hasn't been like that since Allen Iverson was in the building. Yeah. And then like 10 minutes later, I saw Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson left the building. He's there all the time. I'll tell you what, it was great to watch that game Friday night. Though they had the energy that you have, as much as the keyword gets thrown around here, if it worked out, that was what you were hoping for. Was an environment like that, where the Sixers, the Cavaliers going at it, whether it's the 3rd seed or whatever, just to have that kind of atmosphere with the greatest player in the league right now and all these lingering possibilities of him coming here after the season. And he had a hell of a game. At least a hell of a second half. You saw both sides of the Embiid, no Embiid thing. That offense was absolutely rocking in the first half, partly because they were flowing more naturally maybe than they seemed to without a 7'2" post presence. But when Cleveland starts a 30-point comeback in the second half, you absolutely miss his presence.
That's very well said. That's good. That's a good point. Yep.
You would hope that at some point you can get to a point where you take a 30-point lead and the game doesn't come down to a missed hit with 1.5 seconds left. As Tina Turner over here in my ear. But,
that's Prince.
Okay, Prince. I'm sorry. Regardless, now that you got Fultz
That's really
back,
give you background music.
I appreciate it. It's great. Now that you got Fultz back, and you've seen a little bit of what he can do, and now that Simmons seems to be approaching the peak of his powers, adding Embiid back into this, adding anyone else who might come along in the near future, they're a top 3 team in the East right now. And anything that comes along in the future is, I don't want to say icing on the cake. They haven't accomplished anything yet, but yeah, the present, not only does the future look bright, the present looks pretty damn good too.
I mean, I think for me, just watching Ben Simmons, I can take my eyes off of him. He's incredible. He's like a mini LeBron out there. He does everything well. And Fultz coming in as he has, basically getting a free player at the end here. I think he's looked terrific in limited minutes, but this team, and now with Kyrie Irving out, I mean, you're basically the second best team in the East.
Can I ask you this question? Do you think at some point Foles becomes important in the playoffs? He's the only person outside of Embiid that can get his own shot, all the way across the board. Does that matter? Do they give him a chance to sit there and do this sometime this season, or is it just still working them in?
I think he's. Yeah, I think he's gonna do some stuff in the playoffs for sure.
I hope so.
I mean, they should.
That's the reason. I mean, you saw last couple of games. The reason why you drafted him.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a legit one, but he can run one long enough to sit there and give Ben a blow pulse, and you can sit there and put him off the ball, and he can sit there and do something that no one else on that team can do outside of Embiid, create his own shot, especially from the perimeter. Because Ben can sit there and do whatever he wants, but he can't shoot.
Right.
You just hope the stage isn't too big for him once the playoffs hit. I mean, given if you buy it was a shoulder injury or not, I don't. I think he had the yips all year.
Without a doubt, he had a yes. But as soon as he got in, I kind of think it's sort of one of those things where, you can sit there and be trained to fight, and you can be mechanical as hell. But if you're someone that's wired to fight, once you get in that fight, you'll sit there and figure it out. Versus someone that's in maybe I should leg kick or something like that.
Everyone has a plan.
Right. Until they get punched in the mouth. and Foles is more wired like the person that's going to punch somebody in the mouth versus sitting there and reacting and being popped. Which is what excites me about this whole thing.
Yeah, wire-to-wire victory today. And he played 20, 25 minutes. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it felt like he played fine watching the game.
I can have the box score for you, but yeah, keep going.
If you can get 20 minutes a night from him in the playoffs, I feel like he is the type of guy who can give you that push. And he won't carry you for a series.
Right.
You could be in a game 4 on the road, up 2-1 in the series, and he could be that instant offense that propels you to a victory here and there.
Not only that, he shoots, he passes, and if you look at the box score for the last few nights, maybe I want to say about half the time he's got a block in there somewhere.
Right.
He's got a steal in there somewhere. He's got a whole bunch of things that don't show up on the ESPN highlight film, but they're important.
We're so, I don't know, ingrained to look towards the future with his franchise over the last few years. Mm-hmm. Where we think about, my God, if he's doing this now, what's it going to look like in 2020? Well, the hell with that. What's it going to look like in 2 weeks? You know what I mean? Because this is...
We're here.
Look,
We're here.
You said Kyrie. I'll add Steph Curry out west.
Right.
If you're naming, I always give my name 8 teams that have a chance to win the title thing at the start of the playoffs. They'd have to be in your top 8 right now, right?
Absolutely.
So Boston would have been in there, and now Kyrie's down. And you just saw them take out Cleveland, and we all know Toronto and that story, and we all know Houston. Houston and Golden State are twin killers out there.
Right.
But what does Fultz do to change this? Is Paul and Harden versus Simmons and Covington looks like death from above. What does it look like against Simmons, Covington, and Markelle Fultz? You know what I mean? And what do we think now? What are the chances they're getting to the finals? 20%? Higher?
I mean, you got to look at the way the East plays out, right? Boston's probably they're done. They're not going to do anything, I would think. And then if they hold on to the 3 seed, it's going to be Cleveland versus Toronto, beating up on each other. So they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
You're talking about Cleveland, Toronto in the second round.
Yeah.
If the seed's hold.
Okay, so if they don't touch Toronto to the finals, that's great because they don't win Toronto, which is huge. That being said, Cleveland, if there's any team that's a favorite that's right for the pickings this year, it's Cleveland. So, I mean...
Because the thing with Cleveland is, and, it kind of coincides with the point about Boston and Golden State. We're not necessarily talking about injury here, but we're talking about a team that, even though they almost came back and won that game, and I'm going to get back to that actual game and how that game ended in a couple minutes with you guys, but you got to lump Cleveland in there with the folks that have injury problems, because Cleveland blew its team up a little while ago. You know what I mean? And while they went on a little bit of a run afterwards, and there was certainly some drama, it certainly didn't seem like the whole Isaiah Thomas experiment was going to work for whatever reason. They're really not working right now. I mean, with Kevin Love coming back, they're still obviously a formidable force, but I can't help but lump them in with Golden State and Boston, where it's like those are three beasts that are they're not themselves for whatever reason, and it opens the gates a little bit more.
Time out.
That's what I'm saying.
Timeout. So I can understand Boston and Cleveland being put in there. Golden State at some point will have Curry back. At that point.
But if you're the Sixers, though, you don't face Golden State till the very end anyhow, and it's just at this point in time they're just not
exactly
the monster.
The way everything's set up at this point, the Sixers are way better coming out of the East than I ever thought it would have been going into the season, and even a few weeks ago.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying. This whole Cleveland.
Right. The two teams I didn't want to sit there and play were Toronto because they don't win in Toronto, but you don't reach them to the finals.
Right.
And the other team beat Cleveland because they got that 23 guy, which is pretty good.
So let's take a look at the seeds right now, and just
okay.
because I want to see what you guys think about how. And we kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago, but things tend to change. But if things play out the way they are today, and this is not taking into account any games that are currently going on, Toronto and Boston are obviously locked in where they are. Mm-hmm. Sixers are almost all but locked into where they are at 3, which probably means Cleveland ends up 4, and it probably means the Pacers end up 5, and then after the Pacers at 5, there's a legitimate drop off in wins. The Heat are sitting at 6. The Heat are they're 4 or 5 games behind. There's not even enough time left for the Heat. So at 6, 7, and 8, you've got Heat, Bucks, Wizards in that order, and the Pistons are not close enough to come out at 9. So this is essentially going to be the tree. Maybe the Wizards come back into the 6 or 7 spot, and that's kind of where this conversation needs to go. So you're looking at, if it ended today, you're looking at playing the Heat, which would be at least fun because you've got that whole Joel Embiid if he comes back, Hassan Whiteside little rivalry going. That would just be cool. But out of the Heat, Bucks, and Wizards, who do you guys feel best against? Is there anyone that you would have any kind of worry about? I'll just throw out there real quickly that if you face the Wizards, I don't necessarily completely like that as this team's first matchup and collectively in the postseason, especially if they're healthy. I'd have a little bit of worry there. I'd like to see the Hassan Whiteside, Joel Embiid rivalry go into a postseason series, but I think the Heat are nothing to sneeze at. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Of the teams you mentioned, the only team that can sit there and play an A game all throughout and give the Sixers issues would be the Wizards. And I don't see that happening. The next time the Wizards play an A game will be the first time to play an A game ever in my life.
I think I agree with him. I think the Wizards are the most potentially dangerous, I guess is the words I'll use, matchup of that trio. But I think the Wizards are a disorganized mess, and it starts from the top and goes down from there. I don't think you can stop Wall and Embiid. So I guess my game plan would be take away one, deal with what the other one gives you. Okay. And the sum is greater than the whole or whatever the word I'm trying to say.
You can sit there and let Wall pull John Starks and shoot himself out of the game.
So that's what I'm saying. If you take Beal away, right, and you tell Wall, okay, look, go get your 40. If you get it, you're going to win. We don't think you can do it 4 out of 7.
Yes, I agree with you.
The Heat, your problem with the Heat this year has been Wayne Wayne has played out of his mind 2 times against the 76ers. Again, you're gambling he won't do that 4 out of 7 times. I think that's a good gamble at 37 years old.
That's a fantastic gamble.
Lastly, you have the Bucks. The thing that would scare you about the Bucks is Antetokounmpo going 1987 Michael Jordan on you for a couple weeks, which is definitely a percentage that is higher than 0 chance of happening. But still,
going up to do something.
There you go. And what you have there is 3 teams who all want to play the Celtics. That's the funny thing about it. It's 6, 7, 8, and they all want to finish 7.
They don't want to finish
how Cleveland tried to avoid actually Washington last year.
Yeah, they don't want 6 at all.
Yeah,
they don't want to be 6. They don't want to be 8. They want to be 7. They want the Celtics, right?
Yeah.
Because not only if you get the Celtics, okay, yes, you obviously get the Celtics, but then the second round you get Toronto, who people are infinitely less afraid of than they are of Cleveland and probably
scary. That could be a dangerous mentality. But I agree there. I do think the Bucks are probably, even though Giannis might be the best player on the court, maybe, and I'm
outside the game.
It's a total maybe. It's a total maybe. I would like the Sixers' chances infinitely better if you're going up against and another inexperienced team that's kind of still feeling its way through what the postseason feels like anyhow.
No one's experienced there at this point except Cleveland. I would say Toronto, but Toronto's very experienced in losing.
Yeah, Toronto's
the thing is with Washington, and I agree with what you guys are saying. Like they're very chaotic, but you're talking. I mean, talk about it. They at least have experience.
Your
they
coach
can
is
get their
Scott
act
Brooks.
together. I know. The coach is.
Your coach
he
is
might
Scott
be
Brooks.
down at the end of the bar. For all I know.
So I'm going to sit there and go back to what I sat there and said for football. Have you seen Scott Brooks coach a basketball game?
Look at the Thunder when they had Harden,
Not
Westbrook,
And Durant.
I mean, forget the Harden trade because I don't know what the hell Brooks did or didn't have to do with that. The fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder
Had all three of them.
had that trio,
All three MVPs.
they don't have any trophies, and they never even got to a point where you're like, they might win a trophy this year.
Now the Heat mugged them.
Never had, he's bad, man. He's bad. Beal, Wall, and Gortat is not Harden, Durant, and Westbrook. I'm sorry.
Right.
That's what I'm saying is I think the only player in those three teams we discussed that can win a game on his own is Antetokounmpo.
Right.
I don't think he can do it 4 out of 7 times, but I would be more afraid of him doing it than just about anyone else not named LeBron.
Individually, yeah, I definitely see the point individually.
Miami,
I just the inexperience factor, I think, would
Spurs a good
just
coach,
play
but
in
they don't have the talent.
Sixers' favor. Miami's they just hang the hell around.
No, Spurs a good coach. They don't have the talent. They flat out
I owe
don't
that
have the
dude.
talent.
Yeah, I owe that dude a little bit more credit than I gave him in the past.
my only thing about Miami is
probably a lot of people do.
5 days from now the playoffs start, right? Does anybody think JoJo Embiid's going to be back in 5 days?
No.
Is anyone worried? No.
Well, the thing of it
That's
is,
my thing.
that's-
Like with the Hassan Whiteside point, though.
yeah.
I don't.
White,
think we're
I,
gonna
I
see
believe
much of that
Whiteside
match.
is going to sit there and find a way to work that against the Heat.
So if
That's what he does.
they end up against the Bucks, Antetokounmpo will beat the Sixers on his own once. I believe that. If they end up against the Wizards, that team's good enough to take them down a game, maybe 2. The Heat would be the only one that I really see a path to them winning this series. And I don't even see that being a versus path.
That being said, with no Embiid, I'm not losing sleep about the Heat.
What I'm saying is, if you told me one of those 3 teams
Right. It's not about losing
was
sleep.
going
It's
to win the
about
series, I
who
would've
would
guessed
you
it was
rather
gonna
be?
Gotcha.
Mike, Jamie, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was just thinking one step up from that too is I mean three's not a lock yet. We have to win out because Cleveland has a tiebreaker and
Fair.
they got 2 soft games. So I don't want to mess with the Pacers first.
Thank
round
you.
either.
Yeah.
My man.
They've been hot. I mean,
My man.
yeah, so give me Miami first seed and let's go. Lock up the 3, go with Miami.
I think
And
Pacers got him 2 out of 3 this year, right?
I think so. I know
definitely beat them
they play
twice.
Tough. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Look,
want
they've
the
been
Pacers
balling.
at all.
Oladipo's someone that can go off and make things not fun.
But the way the Sixers are playing, I'm pretty confident
yeah.
that we can handle just about anything that's
Yeah.
thrown at us right now.
Yeah.
Now, with the way they're playing now, and at least it's worth at least mentioning. We've known for a while that the way their schedule was playing out, they were going to be in position to do some cleanup work at the end of the year. But however, we didn't know that would be without Joel Embiid. So it kind of really all does even out.
It's a new Philadelphia, Joe. We don't need superstars. Just plug new people in and just
Tony
keep
Road,
winning.
where's Tony Road? Where's Tony Road?
Next man.
I'm glad to actually be a part of one I could actually enjoy this time around.
With the way they're playing now, and with the way they have been playing with Embiid, does that change anybody's mind, or not even necessarily change your mind? Where does that put your mind as to how do you want them to treat Embiid in terms of his injury? Do you say it's playoffs if he feels like he's anywhere more than 60% and he's not going to his face isn't going to crack like a jigsaw puzzle, like let's bring him back, or do you say let's let him marinate a little bit if he's not 100%? Let's keep this going. Where do is there a rush to get him back, or is there not a rush?
I would say play home court the first 2 games, and then buys you time, and hopefully the crowd compensates for him not being there. And then by the time you hit the road, hopefully he's ready to go.
And buy you like another 4 or 5 days at least.
Yeah,
I thought you were going full process conversation again. I was about to grab this chair and come across the table.
It's been two. Let me. Here's what I'll say about the process. It's been 2+ years since Hinkie has been in this town. Let the man enjoy his coffee. Continue. He's gone.
Hey, you let the man enjoy his coffee. We've been sitting there riding in front the whole entire time. That being said, the issue in question is the way they're going right now. The more time you sit there and rest him be to get him wherever you need him to be for that next round, allow him to rest. I'm pretty sure you can pretty much incorporate him back in because there's not too many 7'2" dudes that can sit there and do what he does, just walk in the face of this earth. They'll find a way to work him back in. But I mean, if the whole thing is sitting there and like preserving his health,
right. That's the thing. I mean, the only decision it comes down to is you're weighing the way they're playing versus how healthy is he. You know what I mean? So it becomes, if he's not 100%, you're saying, okay, he's not 100%, but we would want him on the floor versus look at the way we're playing.
I got you.
That's what
I got you, but the way they're playing right now, they're blowing people back.
Oh yeah, no, that's
clear out.
Yeah.
So at that point, you let them ride.
Yeah.
I'm resting for the first round series unless, like Jamie was saying, unless they're down 2-0 or something, then you throw him in there, of course.
But only if he's not 100% healthy. If he's ready to roll,
If he's ready to roll, you got to play.
He's ready to roll. He's going in. Yeah.
What's really amazing is we're sitting here talking about this, and you could actually view this conversation from the lens of do we need Embiid or Fultz to win a first round playoff series?
Right.
No.
What a freaking testament that is to Simmons and Brett Brown. Brett Brown too.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Same thing.
Thank you.
And JJ Redick.
So here's the question.
Bellinelli.
And yeah, the veterans are veteran enough.
Let's say this just goes straight down to percentage chances. They win their first round series. Embiid comes back in the second round. They play Cleveland, and it's not quite enough. They get bounced by the Cavaliers in 6 games. Coming into next season with a fully loaded Simmons, Embiid, Fultz, Covington, Bellinelli, Ilya, Sova, Redick, is he an option here? Exactly.
They can mid-level exemption.
It's probably another top
1-year contract.
JJ Redick.
Okay.
So probably another top 10 pick. Courtesy of the
I don't know if he has a
Lakers.
choice.
Okay.
When you're talking about this team going into next season, is it Embiid's team or is it Simmons' team? That's the question.
Simmons.
Little Hardaway Shaq going on there.
So that's what I'm wondering, right? Everybody talked about,
Embiid.
God, once you add Simmons to
Hey,
Embiid.
if Simmons can shoot a jump shot, then it becomes his team. Until then, it's Embiid's team.
If Simmons learns to shoot, he's leading.
Yes.
I mean, my lord. But
I think Simmons controls the game. He controls the pace of play and the flow of the game. And Embiid is the vocal leader, the big guy that everyone's going to paint to be the guy. But I think ultimately it's Simmons' team.
The Embiid Simmons thing. It's I didn't necessarily see the conversation as going this way, but it's really interesting because. I mean, what Simmons is, and again, the schedule is what it is, but the way Simmons is playing right now, I mean, someone said, minus the jump shot,
He's
it's
LeBron.
like, yeah. But, Embiid's got at least, talent and clout. I mean, Embiid was here first. It's probably Embiid's team.
Joe, Embiid,
regardless.
Embiid's like one of the rare unicorns left. That dude can sit there and have a legit post-game inside, which no one else outside maybe Anthony Davis can claim.
Yeah, he's basically on court.
And he can sit there and go outside, and Anthony Davis can do that too. But those two and maybe Boogie are the only three that can sit there and do that whenever the hell they want. And all of them have the handle to sit there and get from top of the key to the rack.
think about that comparison. You got probably the first team All-NBA center this year in AD. You got a guy in Boogie who's been All-NBA in the past, might have been again this year if he stayed healthy. And they're teammates.
Yeah.
At least for right now they are. So the difference there is one 6'11", the other 7'0".
Right.
This is a situation where Simmons at 6'10" is like the evolutionary Anthony Hardaway, hopefully with some better health. And Joel Embiid, to me, is Hakeem Olajuwon grown up with 30 years of offensive advancements.
Preach on the Hakeem thing. best comp that I can find for it. As far as Simmons goes,
Olajuwon's my favorite center I ever watched. Everybody talks about Shaq. Shaq was unforgettable in his own way. But I watched Hakeem Olajuwon eat Shaq's lunch in the 1995 finals.
I'm not mad
Finesse
at that
versus force, basically. Finesse versus force. Yeah, I mean, you hope. It's funny. One thing I hadn't thought about related to the Sixers is, is this Embiid's team or is this Simmons' team? I would give Embiid the nod, in a close race because he was here first. He was here first.
If Simmons were to sit there and get a jump shot and show you that he can't be stopped as far as getting his own shot anytime he wants, it becomes Simmons' team.
I get it.
Because Embiid, in order for Embiid to sit there and do what he does, someone has to sit there and feed him. Simmons handling the ball from rip, so he's basically LeBron without a jump shot right now.
I get that. I agree with that. I would still, I would just still give the edge to Embiid. As far as
yes.
my locker room, he was here first. As long as he's elite in his own right.
Right now, yes. Someone gets a jump shot.
It should be
This
a
new
good problem
now.
to have. Before we move too far on from the Sixers, I want to at least focus on this game a little bit. Rob, you brought up a good point earlier related to the whole 30-point lead and how when you take the conversation of what this team looks like with Embiid and without Embiid and how somewhat surprising it's been the run that they've had without Embiid. They in some part, if you just look at it from a tempo standpoint, you could probably say that the tempo without Embiid helped them to build the 30-point lead, right? But however, without Embiid's presence, you were susceptible to that game becoming somehow close again. But if we focus on that game, and we focus on the fact that odds are that however things tend to play out, at some point, the Sixers, if they advance in the playoffs, they will run up against the Cavaliers. Based on what we saw that game, and there's a lot to take in because Embiid wasn't there. There was a 30-point lead. There was a comeback. There was just like you can always say, I guess, a debatable foul call that maybe shouldn't have been a shooting, shouldn't have been in the act of shooting, but as a play that, maybe a young player shouldn't have made and maybe a more experienced player wouldn't have made. Anyhow, you put LeBron at the line for a chance to tie the game, and he was basically an unlucky roll away from having ball in hand with the opportunity to tie that game with momentum going Cleveland's way. What is the takeaway from that game, with all that being said, and anything else you might want to add to the pot, as to how you guys legitimately feel like this team can go up against and beat Cleveland in a series, whether we know it can't be in the first round, but whether it be sooner rather than later?
Okay, so first I'll say what you can take away from it. You played 48 minutes of NBA basketball, and at the end, the Sixers had a higher number than Cleveland Cavaliers.
Right.
And that's important, okay? Just to take the very fundamentalist issue of what you settled there.
And especially before you go on, it's I think the most impressive thing there, just when you just say that they had more points than the other team, is that it was in the midst of a pretty long winning streak, almost from the franchise's history stamp, almost an historical win streak.
The next win breaks the record.
And it was like, that they were primed for losing that game. No Embiid, a streak that just ultimately has to end right eventually, and Cleveland, the best team in the bunch that you're going to face.
But Cleveland was coming off that
back-to-back
17-point comeback
right,
of their own.
They were not primed.
And they were going on the road.
It was a bad spot for
They were
Cleveland.
primed.
Very bad spot for
It's a
Cleveland.
bad spot for Cleveland, who nonetheless covered, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, Sixers were a 3.5.
Stop that.
Sixers were a 3.5 favorite.
Right.
Wait, they did. Wait, I thought they were 3.5 favorite.
No.
Cleveland covered.
Right,
lost
Cleveland
by
covered.
2
I'm sorry,
points.
Cleveland covered.
Even if it's 3, they cover.
Right.
Okay, so here's what we also have to look at. Cleveland didn't have Hood or Hill that game, okay? The Sixers weren't the only ones missing somebody or somebody's due to injury.
Fair.
Something to say for Cleveland. The other thing, Philadelphia is, without Embiid, doesn't matter. They're a terrible third quarter team.
Yeah.
Throughout the season, and it especially shows up against elite teams. Everybody remembers the Warriors game, right? The 19-0 run, and they came back and they got beat. The Rockets game where Eric Gordon bags the 3 at the end. Now it happens against Cleveland. They are a terrible third quarter team, and I'm not going to try to break that down X's and O's.
Just look at your wallet.
Yeah, I don't completely understand why it is. I have some theories, but it's the truth. If the Sixers are up by 10 at the end of the third quarter, you can bank on that lead being cut in half minimum by the start of the fourth. They are very bad in the third quarter. That showed up that night. I know I texted you guys this during the game, and I still believe it. If Tyronn Lue or LeBron or whoever can convince the Cavaliers to give a shit on defense for the next 6 weeks, they will win the Eastern Conference. I still believe that.
And that's a challenge for a lot of NBA teams.
But that's the whole if my uncle had, or if my aunt had, she'd be the king, that whole thing. Yeah.
If it was the fifth.
Hey,
exactly.
Aunt Larry.
So we got all that out of the way. So what does it mean in the big scheme of things? Probably not a whole lot. I think the biggest thing it needs is the simple part. They played 48 minutes and they beat Cleveland. I don't believe they had done that yet. Now they have. Now they have beaten every team in the East head-to-head at least once, and they will not go into any series before the finals questioning, can we beat these guys?
And that gives you some good confidence, I think.
I'm going to agree with them up until a point because I still have yet to see them win the game in Toronto.
No, but they have beaten Toronto. They haven't won in Cleveland either, you know?
Toronto's going to be that Eastern Conference Finals matchup if they get there, right?
I guess it depends on how the Boston thing plays out, but yeah, probably.
Okay, so at that point, you have to win four of them, and you have to win at least 3 of them in Toronto?
You'd have to take one in Canada, yes.
Oh, sorry, one in Canada.
You
sorry,
could
my math is way
theoretically-
off. Yeah, you can theoretically get the rest of them elsewhere. But you have to win one in Canada, and
Correct.
they haven't done that since when?
2013.
Okay, we're 5 years later.
Like when the Raptors sucked and had none of the guys they do now.
It doesn't really matter what they have, but the bottom line is they don't win there.
Right, but they know they can beat the Raptors. How much do you think? Okay, how much do you think guys go onto the court with a mind block about a team as opposed to a location in basketball?
If they have a mind block about a team versus a location, it doesn't even matter at that point. If you have that mind block, then I don't know if I actually want to my team to begin with, but I digress. The answer to that question is it should be no.
I guess I'm thinking matchup versus not intangibles, but home court, right?
Gotcha.
You think about, I'll compare it to football. Remember the Packers and the Cowboys all those years ago, how the Packers won the Super Bowl and everything, but they couldn't beat Dallas. Then they beat Dallas, and it became, well, you still can't beat Dallas in Dallas. It's like, well, how many conditions are we going to put on this?
Right.
Yeah, they haven't won in Toronto until they do. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And they have to do it more of the time than they've done it within the last half a century.
I'll say this. If they run into Toronto and they lose a game at home, I would feel that was disastrous. The Sixers.
Yeah.
I could see them going and taking a game in Canada. I can't see them splitting in Canada.
I would love to see them go and take a game in Canada, but that's the only thing that worries me. Outside of that East is wide open.
Yep.
That East is wide open.
It is, and to some extent,
I'll take Meek Mill over Drake.
Wait, you ain't down for the 6th? They call it the 6th or the 6th,
Six.
right?
Mike, you kind of hinted to this earlier, I think, to some degree, but just the whole Markel. So if you look at Markel Fultz, and we don't need to rehash everything that's been swirling, around him this season. But if you look at him, if you look at the fact that Embiid's hurt right now, if you look at the fact that the GM has made some tweaks at his team, you bring back Ilyasova, you go out and get Marco
Gallinari.
When you look at those things, it starts to feel a little like we've seen this movie before a couple months ago with a team that just like things just are happening around this team. You know what I mean? And the NBA is.
I think there's something to that.
The NBA is a different animal, and it's like things can happen a lot, but at the end of the day, the best player on the floor usually wins. But things are happening around this team, and I just can't help but feel somewhat of a parallel.
Pick me. All right, so the difference between this and that other team you might be referring to is the fact the other team only had to win one game.
Right.
Quite honestly, I don't know if they play each other 10 times, who wins what amount.
I was talking about Villanova.
Well, if you were talking about Villanova, I would have jumped across the table and choked you already. So let's
No, give him that
Go
one.
Cats.
That's one for him.
So let's go back to something else. Which I just
Totally threw him off.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
He
you
just
threw
blew
me
your
off.
game up.
All right, train of thought back.
No, but I hear what he's saying with that because the Eagles needed to play the game of their lives once. And they needed to do it in a neutral site that was actually probably more favorable to them than it was to the Patriots. I do get that. Unfortunately, that's the problem with comparing anything to football. There is no basis for, well, if this was a 7-game series, if football was a 7-game series, everybody would be dead by the time you went to game 3.
Right. Now, I'm only comparing it in the sense
So-
that it's just it's very recent that we've seen just things kind of happen. And
Yeah, but at the end of the day, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll just finish my part of that point, which is let's see when the playoffs start.
Right.
Let's see if the Sixers can get as favorable a road to those finals as the Eagles did. Let's see. I mean, you got to remember, 2 dome teams came into Philadelphia in iffy, not quite bad, but iffy weather,
Right.
and one of them had Case Mother-loving Keenan
Right.
as their quarterback.
I love your style on that one.
That's certain dominoes had to fall. Like you're
Right,
you know what I
right,
mean? Yeah.
right. But here's what I'm saying: if the Sixers have to deal with the potential supernova of Antetokounmpo in the first round, the best player of the last 20 years in LeBron in the second round, and then the idea of going to Canada and trying to upset the Raptors in the third round, I think that is liable. Say they come through all that, and then Paul and Harden or
Right.
Curry
Or-
and Durant or whoever
right.
are waiting in the finals. I think that could take a lot more out of them, as opposed to the Sixers, who were counted out against the friggin' Falcons, who sucked for 3/4 of the year, counted out against the Vikings, who had against the Falcons.
I know, but you said the Sixers, not the Eagles.
Sorry. Okay, so the Eagles were number one. They were counted out against a team that barely snuck into the playoffs, the Falcons, and they barely survived. They were counted out against a team led by CMK, Case Mother-loving Keenum, and they won by 31 points. At that point, they had galvanized everything into if no one likes us and we don't care.
Right.
Underdog mentality.
Right.
Whereas if you take out Antetokounmpo, LeBron, and the Raptors, I think Curry and Durant, I think Paul and Harden are just going to pick over the boat.
Right.
I think that would be a short, painful experience. But again, who cares? I mean, if they lose the NBA Finals this year, that is a rousing success.
As long as you're not getting embarrassed. But no, I mean, you laid out what clearly, in your opinion, is that would be the hardest road to travel, and it makes sense. And I understand, but I understand. I think I'm taking away your main point of where the Sixers sit right now and the way things are going. Whether the playoffs start tomorrow or that they start in 3 days, the Sixers are going into their postseason. Riding a high wave. They're not necessarily, even if they're whoever they go against in whatever how many series they play, even if they are the on paper underdog, they're not going to be able to relish in the true backhanded underdog treatment that the Eagles got.
Talk about the
Sixers
Sixers?
have to deal with top of the mountain.
The only thing that might be considered underdog for the Sixers at this point would be Cleveland, and that's only because Cleveland has the best player on the planet. Outside of that, it's fair game.
That's going to be one of their. That's a challenge for a young team to be riding this high. In some regards, like let me ask you this.
No, I got this one. I'm going to sit there and say it kind of seems like they're too stupid to realize the gravitas of the situation too. They just go out and ball.
Well, that's what you hope. Yeah, that's what you hope. Yeah. That's what you hope.
That's what I've been saying. They've been playing
weight.
loose. Really loose the whole entire time.
Yeah.
And that worked for another team in Philly, too.
Yeah.
So, if they go out that way, whatever happens. I mean, I don't expect them to get past LeBron. I don't expect them to do that one. If they do, great. If they don't, great. That becomes a selling point.
Supposed to beat him,
Well, that becomes a selling point for LeBron, too. It's like, okay, what do you really want to do? You want to go to the West Coast where you can sit there and go on the Lakers and get a couple of people and you still have to go through Houston and Golden State to get to the finals every single year? Or do you want to come to Philly where your path of resistance is minimal?
Right, that fits the pattern better. He's got a lot to think about.
You probably have like the 2 best players in the East on your team at that point. And the third one
Right, and
Merging.
then at that point, all it becomes is
Not merging.
You know,
That's
we
not
talked
the
about this a
word.
couple weeks ago.
There you go, emerging.
You got
There
to
you go.
you got to
Thank
make
you.
that. You got to make that work. You got to make.
So I had to take recognition.
You got to make that. You know, you got to make that paradise work. But yeah, no, he's got a lot of things to think about in that regard.
If you think of it from a pure like storytelling standpoint or whatever, picture a scenario where the Sixers take the Cavaliers to, I don't know, overtime of Game 6 here in Philadelphia, and LeBron puts up a triple-double with basically does what he did Friday night.
44.
And the Cavaliers come out on top. And you're picturing like this sports movie scenario where Simmons is shaking his hand at the end of that series saying, "You got me this time, but you will never, ever get me again." And LeBron's just got to think about that, right? Now he's going into free agency. He knows it took everything I had to beat Philadelphia. Can I beat them again? Or do I go there and help them finish the process?
Let me ask you a better question. So LeBron is on record stating basically Ben Simmons is me.
Uh-huh.
He's on record stating that.
The Fresh Prince and the King. Or
Right.
whatever, right?
He
Yeah.
uses the
So-
Sixers on video games.
So
He does.
I know.
once he comes to
he's in love with
determining
Ben
what to
Simmons,
do
His wife should
during
know.
this off season, it's like, so how would it actually feel to play with my doppelganger?
So that's the most interesting thing about this. All
I
the
didn't know we were
times,
going to X-rate it, but let's continue.
For March.
threw me off there a little.
For March.
We're back.
Not touching that one.
For all the mentor and mentee situations you've had in sports, whether it was Montana and Young, was Rogers and Favre for a while, you know, McNabb and Peterson.
This is not tumultuous.
Thank you. Somebody had to laugh at that one.
This is not tumultuous at all.
Here you've got a guy at, what are you going to give me? LeBron's at 90% of the peak of his powers right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably not in his prime anymore, but he's damn close.
No, his numbers sit there and say otherwise. Quite honestly.
Okay. So he comes here, let's say it's, what would it be, a 4-year deal? I don't always...
No. LeBron's going to be a 1-year deal. It's
Yeah.
it's 1-year deal from here on out.
That's the big.
He's on an NBA
That's
contract.
the matzo ball. That's what you got to figure out.
So he comes here at 34 years old, having... Okay, let's say that the Cavaliers pull it off. He's played the NBA Finals 8 years in a row, which is unprecedented in this era.
it's nuts.
Absolutely ridiculous. And he decides to come here with Simmons, who, as Carlos said, is like his mini-me. But LeBron is still LeBron. He's one of the unquestioned top 5 of all time, probably top 5 in the league right now. To any
In the
neutral...
league? No, he's like 1 or 2.
Well, right, no kidding. But I'm saying
five.
for any foreseeable time he would spend in Philadelphia, he'd be top 5, right?
Yeah.
Who surpassed him?
No one.
My point is this. Any neutral observer is going to tell you LeBron is, was, and forever will be Simmons superior until proven otherwise.
Right.
This is not necessarily a situation where LeBron is shepherding in the guy who's going to take his place. LeBron could be the better of the two players for the duration of the time he's in Philadelphia.
Right.
That's a unique situation.
Yeah, it's unique, and you know, as much as you would, with as many arms as you have, you know, welcome the scenario. There are things to to figure out.
Well, right.
Well, what if you beat Cleveland in the playoffs? Do you want LeBron?
No. You bring up a really interesting thing because if you're
Was that question rhetorical?
I'm throwing it out there.
no, it's an absolute interesting thing because
Do you want the greatest players not named
no,
Mike
but it's
to play for your team?
I'm gonna put it on its ear when I say this.
Okay.
If you're LeBron and you happen to lose to the Sixers, do they fall down? And let's just say LeBron right now ranks the Sixers as where he wants to go. Okay, if they beat him, does that change his mentality at all? Because we all saw what Durant went through when he joined the team that beat him.
No. The answer to that is no, because you already saw what LeBron went through when he decided to join the super team in Miami.
Right. But still, LeBron at least never had to face the reality of going to the very club that knocked you out. It's just, again, would I sit here and say that if
Instead, he went to a team where they basically had a lineup that's going to have like 3 of the top 6 players in the NBA at the time of the team.
No, what I'm saying is, for a guy who already has every move that he makes in life magnified, whether that's for the good or for the bad, and you sit here and he's out to eat right now, or he's at a game right now, and he kind of feels like he's going to try to get Cleveland one more. He's having one of his best statistical seasons. He's having one of his best statistical seasons of all time. The things that are happening with the Golden State Warriors, and again, we're only in the here and now right now, but LeBron has no reason to think that he can't win another one with Cleveland this year. So
yes,
let's just say in his mind that he's like, I still got as good a shot as anybody in the East.
He doesn't.
In his mind, I'm saying in his mind, he thinks there's no reason that he can't go and get another shot at the finals, get one more for Cleveland, say, love, peace, and chicken grease, I'm out of here, and then I want to go to the Sixers because they're up and coming. They've got the money to make it work. They've got guys I want to play with. I'm already, BFF, tweeting every day Ben Simmons. The only thing that could give him pause would be if they beat him, and then he has to just deal with, and he's dealt with a lot PR-wise, whatever. Some that he's handled well, some that he's handled not so well, in my opinion. But he would at least have to think about, Christ, they beat me. That wasn't part of the plan.
Can I go? All right, so LeBron has won championships in 2 spots, right? Name one of those spots where he won where he didn't have a dog right next to him.
Didn't have what right next?
A dog. Translation of a dog. Someone else that's an alpha that can sit there and close the game too. He had 2 more in Miami. Had one in Cleveland. And you had, I can't call him a dog, but I can't.
Everyone needs help.
No, I can't even sit there and say dog adjacent. I can sit there and say other things, but I guess Kevin Love kind of sort of counts.
Kyrie.
But Kyrie's a dog. Kyrie's a dog.
No,
so,
shit, I thought you were looking at him.
No. I sat there and said,
here's how you put Kevin Love. You put Kevin Love in the bucket of, when you found out that he was going to join LeBron, you were like, oh my God, LeBron is getting Kevin Love. And
Wrong.
Get the hell
You put Kevin Love in the bucket that LeBron wanted him there instead of Andrew Wiggins. That's the bucket.
No, what I'm saying is you were excited. If you're a LeBron fan and you want LeBron to win 8,000 rings, you were glad that he was getting Kevin Love.
If you're a LeBron fan, you want LeBron to win 8,000 rings, you would have thought that LeBron would have been smart enough to keep Andrew Wiggins versus Kevin Love and sit there and be able to play positions basketball all the way throughout.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think a lot, but I think a lot of people were excited that Kevin Love was joining LeBron.
Oh no, without a doubt.
Kevin Love's game has to change, just like Bosch has had to change, just like everyone has to change.
Kevin Love become Mike Dubinsky.
You can change.
Mike Dubinsky with range. That's basically what Kevin Love's become. Because he doesn't protect the rim, he doesn't play an ounce of defense. That dude can sit there and drain a bucket, and if he's in a position where he's the main guy on the team, he'll sit there and average a double-double. He's a walking double-double. But he doesn't do anything that helps you metrically as far as the NBA team. Period.
Well, I'm not necessarily trying to, make a strong case for Kevin Love and where he ranks in the NBA echelon.
No. Well, the whole argument is LeBron and who he has as far as his teammates go or whatever. And
well, let me just say this.
He's never been in a position where he didn't have a dog with him in order to win one.
Right. Well, LeBron's always part of what's the big. It's the big 3. There was the big 3 in Miami. Kevin Love, Kyrie, and LeBron were considered the big 3 in Cleveland. Now, right now, he's got no big 3. So is that right? So that's what you're saying.
Yes.
So he would have to win without a big 3.
He's not winning.
I don't think he's winning either. My only point is if in his mind, and as good as he is, as long as he's suiting up and putting a basketball in his hand, the air and the opportunity is there.
You're right. And for him, I kind of think, I start the statement with saying, if LeBron is smart, we know LeBron is smart. At that point, your path of least resistance is what?
Is Philly.
Yes.
It makes right. So, I think we're on the same page there. The only I think the comment that I had that took things on a sidetrack a little bit was just that the only thing that could go wrong for LeBron right now, if we're following what we think he would be following based on what we've seen so far, is as his career has gone, would be the only thing that could possibly throw what's the comment? A monkey in the wrench into the system, a wrench into the whatever. The only thing that can complicate things is if the Sixers were to beat them in a series, and then he's got to deal with he is now joining the team that knocked him out.
Well,
It's not a huge thing.
It's a different scenario just because he's been in the finals the last 7 years. When was the last time he's lost in anything but the finals?
Right.
He was a kid last time that happened. So.
Yeah, I'm not saying it would derail his plan if that's his plan. It's just it would just give him something to think about.
Yeah, it seems like he wants to stay in the East because he sees that as the path of least resistance to get to the finals. And it's just a matter of where he decides to go.
There's only one team. There's only one team.
He's got a lot to think about, and it's like even though he would probably try to play off that he doesn't think about this, he cares obviously about his legacy, and he hears the things like, oh, he only won in the East. I'm telling you this right now. I'm telling you this right now. Whether it's 1% of him, 5% of him, or 95% of him, there's some percentage of him who would relish in the fact of going out west and winning out west because he's heard his whole life how crappy the East is, and that if he that he's not taking his talents out.
Oh, without a doubt. But the problem is, if you're taking talents out west, you better have other talent on that team.
No, yeah, I get it.
And so far, the only spot that they're talking about going to was the Lakers. And I mean, even if you bring Paul George out there, even if you bring Westbrook out there with him and Paul George, do they come even close to sniffing Houston or Golden State? No. Those are mismatched parts. That's like a misfit gang right there. It doesn't work. And it's not because of him, it's because of the other people involved.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be. Okay, so anything else to add related to the Sixers before we move on? Before we move on to other things.
I guess not.
Covered a lot there.
All right, so the Flyers are also still a Philadelphia franchise, and they are going to be playing in what is otherwise considered spring in Philadelphia. Weather be damned. Where do you guys are? You even paying attention to the Flyers? I know. I sit amongst the preachers of the processing, but do the Flyers? Does Hextall get any credit for the processing that he's done? And are you at all excited about their postseason? And one thing I'll throw out there is I'm really glad for two people in particular, which I don't think I'm starting a revolution when I say this, but Ron Hextall and Claude Giroux. Giroux in particular, Giroux's a guy who's had a real interesting career in Philadelphia, and we've talked about it before on this podcast. It's probably been a little, a while, but I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for Giroux because he came, he was a young player, and he was with a team that went to the Cup Finals, lost basically on one of the craziest NHL goals you'll ever see, and I try to stay away from extremes, but that shit was just straight weird.
Michael Layton just sucks. There was nothing weird about it.
They almost pulled off one of the more incredible championship runs that could have if they would have pulled that off, it would have been incredible. The team gets blown up. Claude Giroux, all of a sudden gets thrusted into a guy who was, a young up-and-coming, real promising player on a deep team with veterans. To everything's been being thrown in his lap. And by the way, while everything's being thrown in his lap, the team was freaking decimated, and that organization was this freaking mess for a good while there. And I kind of always had a soft spot for him just because I felt like, from a fan's perspective, he became the easiest guy to blame as to why they were not, winning in a certain period of time where he was, the main guy.
Giroux?
Giroux, yeah.
Okay.
Just came under, a lot of fire and ire in Philadelphia, at least in my opinion. And so I'm really glad for him. He had, he went over the 100-point mark for a season. He's a dead to rights MVP candidate again. I don't know that he's going to get it, but he's in the conversation, and I'm just glad for him because I feel like it's kind of flipped now. He's the veteran with some good young talent under him. But anyhow, just really glad for him. Really glad for Hextall. Been a Hextall fan all my life. And I like the way they went about getting to where they are, playing young guys. They happened to get very lucky in the draft last year to nab the number 2 pick. But everyone needs a little bit of luck. But I'm actually, even though they don't necessarily have a string of luck against those guys this year in Pittsburgh, I'm glad that they're getting a chance to play those guys in this upcoming series, because I think it's going to give this team and this group of guys a jolt, because people are going to be into this series, and that stadium should be rocking, for ice hockey as well. And just whatever. That's glad for those guys, and I'm looking forward to this series, even though it's going to be a tough one for them.
My response is quick. I tend not to pay attention to hockey until after. Same thing for baseball. Until after basketball's completely over with. So, wake me up at least once the playoffs get hot and heated for hockey. I can watch playoff hockey on TV. Outside that, I prefer to watch it live or not at all. NBA basketball is going to be fun this year too. So I'm going to be able to sit there and watch both of them, but I really don't. I never really focus on the Flyers anyway in general, but definitely not while much basketball stuff is going on still.
Well, at least you get to say that they're going to they can knock, they have a chance to knock the Penguins off their perch, and that's pretty cool.
The rivalry rise, yes, absolutely. I mean, Penguins, Devils, anyone New York related, anyone Boston related, in Pittsburgh. Do what you need to do.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of hockey, to be honest with you, this year. I'm glad for Drew. He's kind of a nondescript player, like other than the shift, right? He's the captain of the team, but he doesn't scream superstar.
Can I ask a question for this one? And I mean, I'm speaking as an ignorant hockey fan. It kind of feels like from the people I know that watch hockey, which you can sort of gather, Drew tends to be big amongst them, plucky guy, a guy that sort of represents Philadelphia more than a normal person on a hockey team. Am I far-fetched in saying that's the case, or?
No.
I'll tell you, Sam Hickey would love him.
Giroux, if you look at Giroux's numbers since against other guys of his era, whom I'm considering to be
Well, no, I got you. Well, it's not about the numbers. It's more about the style of play and what it represents.
But if you do look at his numbers against guys of his era, by which I'm saying guys who are or just have turned 30, he measures up really well against anybody not named Crosby or Kane. Okay? Unfortunately, his career has coincided with the Blackhawk and the Penguin dynasties. Okay? What's really unfortunate for Giroux is that in Crosby's 4 Cup victories, several of them have come at the expense of the Flyers, if not directly along that path. So, look, nobody in hockey right now wins a comparison with Sidney Crosby. Very few people win one with Patrick Kane. That's the good news for Giroux. He's top 5 in his era. The bad news, I don't think it changes this year. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins are about the worst possible matchup for the Flyers. The one thing the Flyers can't do is kill penalties. And the Penguins' power play is by far the best in the league. And I think that will ultimately doom the Flyers.
I mean, the best they could say, for this year, I think, is that that they stretched them to overtime twice.
It's not a great matchup.
Yeah, they're getting.
But to Joe's,
I would say this is a team, though, too, that's had streaks of being incredibly hot and incredibly cold this year.
They got goal scorers up and down the ice.
If they can hit any kind of hot streak like they've been on, I don't think I ever saw a season like this. It was, game after game of wins, game after game of losses, back to back. It made no sense at all in the entire season for this team. So, if they can get hot somehow, and unfortunately, how you get hot in the playoffs with hockey is goaltender, and I don't know that we're there yet. So, look, they could be out by the next time we all sit together and talk, or we could be talking about something exciting. But
and that's the other thing with the NHL. Yeah. 8 years ago it was Boucher and Leighton, and somebody else was in there too. I think nobody even knew who the goalie was.
Yeah.
and they got one train wreck of a bad goal away from taking the Blackhawks to Game 7 in the final. Hockey's just one of those sports where once you're in it, you got a shot. You know what I mean? And they're in it. But, breaking it down statistically, Penguins are a really, really bad matchup.
But to Joe's point, it should at least get people excited. That matchup's going to get people excited because people hate Pittsburgh.
I think their defense is really nice for the future.
Talk about the team. I mean, they're just as set up. They're just as well set up as the Sixers are. We talk about the future.
Well,
Drew's a little long in the tooth, but I don't.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about that. You can be a contributor in hockey well into your 30s. I think it's the same story that it's been for 29 out of the past 30 years. Their goaltending's not where it needs to be.
Yes.
And they could probably use one more scorer. Other than that, I think Couturier's really settled in well as this, defense first, but I can also drop 25 goals in the season forward. I think Giroux has a combination of talent and experience that's hard to find. I still think Simmons is very valuable. I think Konechny, am I pronouncing that correctly? Konechny, Patrick, these are guys with good, bright, young futures. Gosh Despair seems to have settled into his role. You've got more good defensemen coming up in the system, even beyond what you're already seeing. Provorov, I think, is a future Norris Trophy candidate. Not this year, probably not next year, someday, though. He's a stud. And they have so many picks. They have 7 picks in the first 3 rounds this year coming up. Hextall's done an excellent job positioning them for the future. But that future's in 2 years, not in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like I'm not in any way, shape, or form expecting them to beat Pittsburgh, and it's like even at the same time when I say that I'm glad that there's some excitement around this team. I hope that it's not that foolhardy excitement, and people if they end up not having a good series here, I hope people don't freaking lash out. But anyhow, that's. It's a little bit.
It's hockey. Hockey's great, but it just doesn't. I've heard from this is like an inside joke in the media was like, football season's over because all the sports writers start filling up the Flyers press box. Like it's a secondary sports though for most.
Everything in Philadelphia is.
Yeah.
Especially now.
And now the Sixers are hot, so they got that going against them.
Hey, anything to keep us from talking about that other basketball thing that happened. So Flyers.
But actually, I mean, when the Lindros era, this team you could call this team a hockey town.
Hey,
it's just we're that type of
Oh, it is. It's different. Like the fan bases are different.
There's pockets in certain regions.
Oh, there are.
The Flyers fans are into it and intense, but it's not general. Like if the Sixers win, you'll see people just show up at a parade if they were to win something. I don't know that it would do that.
Like the Northeast, South Philly, Roxborough. There's huge diehard Flyers fans in there, regardless of what else is going on.
When I first got here, it was 91, right in the midst of Lindros drama. Will he come to Philly? Will he go to New York? He came to Philly, obviously, and this was a Flyers town for the next 8-9 years until Iverson came along. Then it was a basketball town, and then him and Weber got traded out at the same time, just in time for the Phillies to get good. The one thing that remained a constant, though, was the Eagles. It's obviously a football town. I think the second most popular sport in this town is a revolving door. Whether it's the Flyers, whether it's the Sixers, whether it's the Phillies, it's basketball. Okay.
Or Villanova.
It's basketball because you have the collegiate and pro for that one.
That's a segue.
So that's a dangerous segue.
I sort of walked us into it anyway.
I know you did. It's that oncoming light you see from the train at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is just the train coming onto the hill.
Yeah. And we're getting there.
All right. Guess it's time to stop fighting.
Yeah, it's time to eat it.
Yeah, I guess we might as well be there. So Mike had a guest column for BillyPenn.com, right?
BillyPenn.com.
And like Mike usually does, he finds a way to take an interesting take on something that you think everything has already kind of been said about. And that was one of my first takeaways when I read your article, is that, wow, he found a way to bring up things that even though it gets talked about a lot, and you think you've kind of heard it all, he makes you think about it in a little bit of a different way. So I'm of the mindset where, to me, I do not consider Villanova Philadelphia. Okay, and the fact of the matter is, it's they're in Villanova. You know, they're in Villanova. They're not in the city limits. They aren't a Philadelphia sports team. Okay, that doesn't mean that certain folks in Philadelphia can't embrace them. Okay, so now I come from a standpoint of where I did not go to a city school as to where Villanova could be just a natural rival for me.
Well, Joe, I mean, if you want to sit there and split hairs, you went to a school that's considered a Philadelphia school by people here that can't sit there and point out 25 miles on a nautical map.
But you're actually, be careful, because you're starting to make a point for Villanova people.
No, I'm not making a point for Villanova people either. I'm just sitting there and saying.
But let me say this.
But.
All that being said, I don't consider Villanova Philadelphia. And anytime that Villanova has been involved, whether it be the tournament or whatever, and they're going head to head against a Philly team, I always have been and always will root for the Philly team. Okay, and whether you think that's shallow or not, that's just me saying I'm going to give precedent to a city school. Okay, whether it be a tournament run, head-to-head matchup. I almost rooted more for Penn in their impossible 16 one-seeded game, this year.
Did you root for the University of Michigan over Villanova Monday night?
No, because I don't despise Villanova, although I did have them in my bracket.
Nobody in Michigan.
I had Michigan in my bracket too, but
in
only
the finals?
Only to lose. Yeah.
I had one in my bracket.
Do I get a
Michigan
for that?
Duke.
You would have been saying you rooted against them.
I actually did the best in. We had a talk last podcast we were on. I was talking about how I've never won a bracket, and I still have never won a bracket, but I came in second.
Okay, wrap this
But anyhow, I don't consider Villanova Philadelphia, but. One thing in particular that Mike brought up that had me feeling like maybe I'm being a little too rigid is, and I know they're close, right? So let's get the proximity thing out of the way, because they're clearly close, right? They're clearly close. So it's not a mileage thing, and then what is it? 12 miles, right? So it's 12 miles, but it's 12 highway miles. Okay, so when you go to Villanova, you know you're not in Philadelphia.
Not 12 nautical miles.
No, but you're in a different land. You're up the main line. You're almost out of the main line, or at least you're halfway.
Yeah, it's a solid
it does not feel like Philadelphia. However,
I know why it's called the main line. It's a direct shot from the city.
You don't want to answer that question.
But you clearly
question.
know that you're not in Philadelphia. You just don't feel like you're in Philadelphia. Like, I've heard people say that Northeast Philadelphia is not Philadelphia, because it's not. It's not.
I've said that before.
Yeah. But when you're in North, to me, and it might be because I grew up there, but number one, you at least have the mailing address Philadelphia. And, there are, row homes. There are row homes in Ardmore, but I don't think there are any row homes in Villanova. It just doesn't feel like Villanova. Anyhow.
Ardmore and Villanova is like...
They're very close. That's very close.
You can walk to one in 30 minutes.
Right, no, but what I'm saying is Ardmore feels like Philadelphia to some extent. Villanova just doesn't feel like Philadelphia.
Look, this was the proximity argument, okay? Here's the thing. When I go back up to New York, a lot of people from New York go to Villanova, which I believe is one of the main problems you guys have with Villanova. Bye-bye. So, if you're on Long Island and you talk to somebody about where you go to school, Villanova. Now, if you're not a college basketball fan, you say, where the hell is that? They don't say, well, it's approximately 6.5 miles via train west of Overbrook. No, they say it's in Philadelphia.
Hey, shout out to Overbrook, by the way.
Look, I had someone at school tell me that Jim Thorpe was in Philadelphia.
So this is a proximity
That's
thing.
way
This is
off.
the same.
And that's the reason why we don't like Penn State.
But Jim Thorpe is only 12 miles
crazy
from
town.
something else that was 12 miles, and something else was 12 miles.
Lehigh Valley,
You
which
can
is
play 6
35
degrees
miles
of
from here.
Jim Thorpe and find your way to Philadelphia.
crazy.
So what I'm saying
I
is,
told you voice an opinion.
when I was in Michigan, and people would ask, "Where are you from?" I didn't say, "Well, I went to Conestoga High School, which is 25 minutes west of Philadelphia, but it's like 33 minutes west of City Hall itself." So really, no, I said I lived in Philadelphia because nobody's heard of Berwyn.
Right.
Okay. Carlos has heard of Berwyn, everyone. However, that's all this discussion is. To somebody in Doylestown, this is very, very important. To the rest of the country, Jim Nance is sitting there the other night as I'm, dry heaving, and he's saying, well, this is 2 in a row for Philadelphia. First the Super Bowl and now March Madness. 48 out of 50 states are going, yup, Philadelphia's having a hell of a time. Pennsylvania and parts of Jersey are going, well, they're not really
Philadelphia my
Philly.
ass.
But here's the
Why
got nothing
don't
to
they
do-
want to embrace them?
It's got nothing to do with geography. People just hate Villanova.
Why?
Well, here.
I know, I got to answer this one.
I'm almost.
Oh, no. You're not equipped to answer this one.
Listen, I have no reason
I got
to like
this
them.
one.
I have no reason to like them.
Tag me and I got this one.
I will, but let me at least finish. I know it was a long thought, but let me finish. So even though I don't consider Villanova, Philadelphia from proximity, they're just not in Philadelphia. That's kind of how it is. I previously had a problem with the whole Villanova didn't want to be in the Big Five. Okay? And that to me,
That's the answer to your question.
from someone who did not go to a rival school, but from someone who did grow up in Philadelphia, okay? So I have allegiance to Philadelphia itself. That is what has and will always tick me off, okay? And I'm not going to peel the onion any more than that. We all know that Villanova has a rep. It's not even just a rep. It is what it is. They had a coach who did not want to be part of the Big Five. They didn't want to beat Philadelphia.
Isn't
and so
he
that,
literally dead now?
he,
though?
Fuck you, Rolly.
Right, so that's
Fuck you, Rolly.
so he's dead. But so that's the thing where I'm not going to hold on to that forever. So I don't hold a grudge. Right? This
Greg
that
Loeb
had nothing to do with Jay Wright. It doesn't change the fact that they're not Philadelphia.
too.
They're not. But I can appreciate them as not Philadelphia, but still accept the fact that I don't care anymore that a former coach didn't want to be in the Big Five. They're still not Philly, but I'm not going to hold Raleigh Massimino against this team at all. Okay.
Cool.
Consider
That's all fine and good. So let's say they somehow ended up where, maybe Urban Meyer or Jim Harbaugh all of a sudden sat there and messed something up that was really, really good for your division.
Like Michigan football? Oh, I'm sorry.
I digress. Yeah, basically every single weekend, back when the Big Five was the Big Five, you could sit there and grab a ticket, do 2 games at the Pleasure, best place ever to watch a basketball game, bar none, and enjoy life. As soon as they sat there and hit in 85, that was done. They wanted to sit and do games at the ski lodge. You get to George Clooney these days. Everyone now is doing games at their spots. So Temple has a home game against a Big Five. St. Joe's has a home game against a Big Five. Nova has home games against everyone and their mom in the Big Five. You just messed up like one of the most purest, beautifulest parts of basketball. Period. And that's the reason why I have this big issue with Villanova. No, they're not part of Philadelphia. They're on the main line. I don't get pulled over in Philadelphia. I get pulled over on the main line.
I get that.
And his whole pipeline is he gets local people, but the rest of it's New York.
He's getting anyone he wants now.
Yeah,
Or that.
he's on top of it. And I get that. And look, there are still people to this day that, whether they're fans or boosters or whomever, there are people who don't. They say we're Villanova. They don't. They want to separate themselves from Philadelphia. They want to go having a big, sweater vest party and just not being Philadelphia.
I have no problem with that one, but my answer.
I'm not gonna let that. What I'm saying is, I've come to a point where I can say, because I used to say they're not Philadelphia, and for that reason, I'm just probably not going to root for them. I've reached the point where I could say they're not Philadelphia, but I'm not going to not root for them because they're Philadelphia. They come head to head with a Philly school. I hope they go, take a dirt nap. But I'm not going to hold that over their head because they're not Philadelphia.
I understand. I appreciate your view. My response to that is fuck them.
Villanova soil. That's cool.
So
organic.
I'm the only. I just met you today, but I guess I'm the only one here who's never called Philadelphia proper their home.
That is true.
Never lived in the city limits.
Never.
Okay.
Right.
So when I hear this as a complete outsider who doesn't necessarily call the area home, and I see, okay, well, why don't you like Philadelphia? For him, it's completely basketball. And I get that.
No.
He went
I like Villanova, not Philadelphia.
But what I mean, right. Why don't you consider them part of Philadelphia, right? And it's basketball. Okay, I get that. But then you hear other things, right? Like, well, these, especially for me, these pretty boy, whatever, coming down from New York, blah, blah, blah. I hate people like that. And you're looking in the mirror.
Well, hell, what can they do?
And you're like,
There you go.
so you can see how certain people start to identify with Villanova, okay? Despite what they did to Michigan, and I give them all the credit in the world, that was a thorough-ass whipping, and that's a hell of a team.
It was bad.
I think a lot of people in a certain demographic, my demographic, are going to identify with Villanova over Temple, LaSalle, certainly Penn, Drexel, St. Joseph's, whatever. The other thing you got to think about is this: keep non-Philadelphian,
never lived in the city.
Non-native.
I'm trying to get you to go to Dion route with this one.
You want me to do it?
Lily?
Hell with yours.
Hey, that ain't hard.
Last thing, if I am a city school, just to play devil's advocate here, I want to keep Nova as close as I can because the Big Five is to basketball what in sync is to the rest of the world. Yeah, there's 5 of you, but ain't nobody thought about the other 4 for at least 15 years.
Right.
What about Drexel?
Right. And at some point now you can say, well, if you come play for our school, you can go to some Villanova games.
There you
just
go,
to watch,
right?
It's
I have heard them literally say, you should thank us, you, Drexel, Penn, LaSalle, Temple, St. Joseph. You should thank us for staying in the Big Five because you guys kill our RPI every year, and we still play these games. You should thank us. Now, yes, I see how arrogant that is.
But that feeds right back into the stereotype.
But that's what I'm saying is I don't understand why the city schools don't want to embrace them. I don't understand why they don't want to embrace the city.
Well, no, the schools have no problem. It's not when you say the schools. When you say the schools, I feel like I hear the word institutions. The institutions, they definitely want to be affiliated with Villanova.
Okay, but this goes beyond a basketball issue when people are saying things like pretty boys wearing sweater vests who come from New York.
It does.
That goes beyond. I didn't see one pretty boy from New York wearing a sweater vest kicking Michigan's ass.
Sorry, I meant tight sweatpants with no pockets.
Well, I mean, when's the next time you consider me pretty or sweater vest? I only fit one of those things. But I have never understood the dichotomy. And, being friends with guys like him and guys like Brian who were dyed in the wool anti-Villanova.
They had a rivalry.
The fact that their ascent came as I was becoming friends with people who were affiliated with the anti-Villanova made it very easy for me to embrace something that was stereotyped as the school for kids from New York. That's just easy. I don't get the difference. I mean, St. Joe's is in the city by about as much as my fist is off the edge of the
They're right there. They're on the border, and that's fair. But But the thing of it is, if you compare it from someone who went to St. Joe's or LaSalle or Drexel or Penn,
No, I get it.
there's a natural rivalry. So that's why you're not going to fully embrace Villanova.
And if you were an alien and you landed on the campus of Villanova, and then the next day you landed on the campus of St. Joseph's, you would have a very different feeling. I get that. Yes. What I don't get is, from the perspective of 97% of the world, as the Final Four coverage proves, this is Philadelphia. And if they're giving credit, like you're trying to create this golden era of Philadelphia sports, like how we have the Super Bowl champions, the March Madness champions, LeBron might come here, all that. It just enhances the metro view
Right.
as a whole to embrace Villanova as part of that. If basketball fans feel differently, I'm totally cool with it. From a civic perspective, embrace them as part of Villanova.
And you just said something there that I kind of never thought about. But here's my quick rebuttal. So let's take the person who, as you said, is nowhere near here. They're not Philadelphia. They're not a rival school, and they feel like, with some good reason, Villanova is Philadelphia because they're in Montana or wherever the hell they are.
Yeah.
And my school's going to play Villanova. Hold on.
Here's the thing. Don't hide behind the geography. The city versus suburbs argument is straight bullshit. Do what Carlos does and just say you hate Villanova because they missed out on the Big Five and you just don't like them. They're pretty boys or whatever. Don't give me the suburb bullshit. They're 12 miles from the city. They're Philadelphia.
I didn't say something. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I don't hate Villanova because they're a suburb, not a city. I'm just telling you why I would root for a city.
We're always
school
quick to embrace, like I said, Mark, all these people. Like even Taylor Swift, she's from freaking Reading. That's not Philadelphia at all.
I know. She's a lot closer than Villanova.
It's a main line stigma. And all these Philadelphians hate Kobe Bryant. He's from the main line. He's Philadelphia.
Yeah, but to be fair, he distanced himself from Philadelphia.
Why? Because
Philadelphia
Yeah, because he played for the Lakers? Didn't go to Temple?
But look,
I don't want to go to Temple either if I'm Kobe Bryant.
He grew up in Italy. He didn't grow up in Philadelphia.
Right, no, but I'm saying Philadelphia said, I'm sorry,
Big time.
Kobe Bryant said, I'm not Philly.
That's not true. He cheers for all the local teams.
Now he does.
Except for basketball. He was in the Sixers guy.
But one thing that Rob said that I had never thought of is, let's just say you're from. That's how far can we get Montana? How far can we get Montana?
We on it.
How far can we get Montana? Let's say you're from Montana.
Whatever. Yeah.
You're out there and you go, all right, my school's playing at Villanova. I'm going to go to Villanova. I'm going to enjoy Philly. I'm going to go see a game. I'm going to make a weekend out of it. Going to Villanova. It's Philly. I'm going. And then you make a right on the 76. At any time between 1 a.m. and the next 1 a.m.
You can take Gerard Avenue to Lancaster Avenue.
Jiminy Cripers, it's going to take me an hour and a half to get to Philadelphia?
No, we live
might as
in
well
Brewtown.
Which
Gerard to
Philadelphia
Lancaster
is an hour and a
Avenue.
half
You hit
to Villanova.
Villanova. It's right there.
I don't think you got to go to Montana. I think you don't need to go further than Harrisburg to get that response from people. I mean,
I'm just saying, it's
you get 30 miles outside of the Philly suburbs.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
It's Philadelphia or it's not Philadelphia.
He becomes Pittsburgh all of a sudden. I'm sorry, Pennsylvania. That was Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But for 80% geographically of the country, it's just a simplification. I'm from Conestoga High School, which is in Berwyn, which is 25 miles west of. Nobody wants to hear all that shit.
You're saying you're from Philly. Yeah. I don't expect
If
anyone.
you come to my
out
house,
there.
back then, my parents' house, you would be like, this is a lot nicer than Philadelphia looked on that movie with Tom Hanks. Okay, yeah, well, where I actually live is
in Lower
this, and blah, 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 blah.
Villanova played all their home games in South Philadelphia this year.
Right.
Yeah, because their building was under construction, right?
The Patriots play almost an hour from Boston.
I was just going to say that the Dallas Cowboys play in Arlington, which
Yeah.
is at least as far as Villanova is from Dallas. Not Philadelphia.
The Giants and Jets play in Jersey. I don't know. That's necessarily the point.
Well, we know that professional athletes get paid. Collegiate athletes do not. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why they're able to sit and do that professionally, and they can't do it collegiately because the kids don't get paid at all.
The University of North Carolina would like to have a word with you.
So with Arizona.
I just think it's funny how we latch on and try to claim all these people being from Philly, and then everyone just hates Villanova.
Now, hold on, and
You know, Rocky Balboa is a fictional character. That was a movie.
Yeah, you know where he's from, right?
New York.
Staten freaking
Yeah.
Island.
Would you start speaking French?
Did you see his interview the other day when he came to the steps? He's like, I am Philly or whatever.
No, he's not. He's Staten Island.
I
Nobody wants to claim they're from Staten
No,
Island.
he's AGH.
But he went to high school in Philly.
He went
He's
to high
all
school,
plastic
yeah.
surgery.
So did I. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he went, yeah,
Plastic surgery.
he actually went to high school in the Northeast.
Okay, he's got me beat.
But Mike, to your point, the whole Mike Trout thing was it? Was
Yeah,
it
why? Because he
illegal?
goes to Eagles games and whoops it up with Carson Wentz. He's from Philadelphia.
Yeah, and Taylor Swift, as you said.
But Mike, I guess to Mike Trout's credit, I mean, not credit, but people claim Mike Trout is Philadelphia because he rooted for the Phillies against the Yankees.
So if a bunch of Villanova fans start
South Jersey.
showing up at Wells Fargo Center next week and rooting for the Sixers, I don't know. I think it's a ridiculous argument, and I think as much as I like to give him crap, I think he's got the right idea. Keep it to basketball. Like, I don't like Villanova. I don't like Michigan State. They're still in Michigan, you know what I mean? But we want to beat them on the basketball court. It's not a question of who's closer to Detroit or something like that. It's just, this is a team that we need to beat. I do not like them. Nobody from that school ever did anything to me personally.
Right. I mean,
But there's a
most
rivalry
schools
there.
never
Well,
did anything. Yeah.
the long story short for that one, especially as far as the Big Five goes, is you sit and look at the rest of the Big Five. Personally speaking, I can sit to root for anyone in the Big Five, not named Villanova. And it's for that particular reason that I said to explain earlier as far as the whole cholesterol thing goes. They just, one of these things is not like the other. It's been that way since '85.
Well, it's interesting you say that because that kind of blows out the I don't like them because they're snooty things. If anything, you would think that about Penn, not Nova.
Correct.
Right. Penn's Ivy League.
That's, you
But
know,
they're in
we're talking Ivy
the
League.
city.
But if you're a Philadelphia
So
person,
if
you
you
know.
wear sweaters in the city, it's okay, but if you wear the sweaters in Villanova, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just asking, because that seems to be kind of the argument.
I told you were going to talk.
That's what you pulled.
Go for it.
That's what you pulled out of all that.
No, I'm just
Sweater
listening.
She's got an excellent point.
I'm just sitting here.
If you take
processing.
Villanova out of the Big Five, who outside of the tri-state area is talking about the Big Five? That's what I'm saying.
Well, today, yeah.
No one.
Okay, for the last 15 years,
So what?
We're Philly. It's us.
It's a
nobody.
Philly tradition.
It's us.
I don't think there's any. Everybody knows about the Big Five, right? You could be in Montana.
No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
I've heard
No.
of the Big Ten. I've never heard of the Big Five.
Yeah, I'm Big Ten
It's
too.
because it's not a league.
And you could
per
take
se.
The
you
scale
could
isn't
take
relevant to Speed
Illinois
Marshall's code.
out of the Big Ten,
how long
and we'd
was
still have everything. If you
25,
rip
30
Ohio
years
State out, a lot of that tradition's gone. I don't like them either. But if you take them out of the Big Ten, a lot of what the Big Ten is all about is all gone.
Right, but
if
you're-
you
but
take
the-
Villanova out of the Big Five,
Right, but the
It's
thing
irrelevant,
Is, you're,
yeah.
No, but that's the point. The point is that it was. No, the city didn't want Villanova out of the Big Five. Villanova wanted
One out of the Big Five.
And it just becomes a time. Eventually time will catch up, and people will not have been around to know it or hear about it unless the
no, I feel
internet
like
melts
this is
or
one of those
something.
things that gets passed
But-
down.
Yeah.
Literally
It does.
Yeah.
Well, but in some part, I'm not.
It's not
advocating
going to
for
go
grudges.
away because Jay Wright has done so much to ingrain himself into Philadelphia and to get back into the Big Five, and people still don't care. They
Well,
won't
why
let
did
it go
he feel like he had to do that?
because he's smart.
And he's smart because he had to do what? Cover up someone else's transgressions.
But wait, and why can't the Big Five catch up? Why can't they get their shit together and hire coaches? Like Temple's going to promote Aaron McKee. Like, go get a real freaking coach.
LaSalle just hired one of Villanova's assistants.
Yeah,
today.
smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know that there's any real Villanova hate at the table. I mean, even with Carlos
I wish
being
you would.
a rival. No, but you at least a few minutes ago gave an example of how you could see someone not liking Villanova.
I
so
hate
you're not.
Villanova as a record label, industry, and as a motherfucking crew. And if you're not Villanova, fuck you too. Look, I despise Villanova.
I know.
Point blank.
One of them Wildcats got sickle cell or something.
No, that's a rap.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But yeah,
But at the same time, though, I get that. But at the same time, you
Them
gave
Notre
a
Dame
reason
and
as
Penn
to why.
State.
Huh?
Them Notre Dame and Penn State and Duke.
That's fine. Duke.
Over Minnesota.
They get Ohio State.
No.
You know, Minnesota. I'm just saying that you a couple minutes ago gave you validated a reason to not.
I can't sit and talk about black people like that. I'll tell you one.
A couple minutes ago, you gave a reason, or at least half a reason, to say that it'd be okay to. What was it? Like, you said something that Carlos got up, started clapping his hands. I think he may have ripped some of the rafters down.
Oh, what? He got some outside.
I thought there was eyes.
Yeah, he's going into the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah,
Actually, unfortunately, he probably
Jay Wright.
is. But
Oh yeah.
So they became. They pretty.
I don't
much-
know. Dougie P's up
I'm
there.
kind of a Super Bowl coach.
But wait,
But Doug Peters.
Jay Wright's the best coach close to Philadelphia.
oh, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Oh, no! I'm not saying anything. My popcorn ready.
You spent 3 hours.
Peterson gives his team ice cream, okay?
Is Jay Brunson an All-American on Duke? No, he's not. He's not. Is he better than Bagley on Duke? No, he's not.
Probably not.
On
Yeah.
Villanova, right? Am I right? Come on.
Yeah, that's what happens when you go on a winning team. That's kind of the way that one works.
So what Wright kind of did was divide the East Coast for these small
Because
private
Jay Wright
schools.
makes the winning
The
team,
South
is my
has
point.
Duke.
Right,
The
right.
North now has Villanova. That's an
Jalen Brunson can't
incredible
walk on
accomplishment.
to
However, you
Absolutely.
put
He's
it.
better than Bagley, but he can walk on to Villanova. and play here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What's your name, bud?
Dennis.
Dennis. Thank you.
But Jay Wright can put guys in the right position. Plays the right position. Right?
That's not a representation. That's a talented ass team. Point.
They're talented, but they're not more talented than Duke. There's no way in the world anybody can argue that.
I can actually agree with that one.
So how about this?
Philadelphia
Duke's
embraces.
the most talented team in
The thing of it is,
there's no.
Philadelphia has had zero problem with embracing Jay Wright. In fact, if you really want to break it down, it was only a couple years ago that Villanova people wanted him out of there. You know, which is I don't mean to throw a stone. When Villanova was only getting as far as the second weekend.
So much.
Villanova at one point was there were people in that, whether they be boosters or whatever. There was some people who did not want Jay Wright hanging around. That Jay Wright couldn't do anything more than, what they considered the status quo of, first or second round. And that, you're going to find that at any institution, any team. And I think that might be the segue as we wrap up here. Probably wrap this up in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Any team, any community is going to rebel against. Head honcho, Philadelphia Phillies fans, by the way, with Gabe Kapler.
Professional, whole different story. If you look at collegiate, everyone has their allegiances, and when it comes to the Big Five, that's a whole different thing. But if you talk professional, and as far as Kapler goes, I tend not to pay attention until after the NBA finals are done. That being said, I've heard a whole bunch of egregious shit already, so please catch me up. So he's sitting there and putting in pictures without sitting there warming them up. He's sitting there and doing a whole bunch of things by consulting a computer instead of sitting there having a gut feeling. What's going on?
Well, let me give I'll try to paint the overview, and then I'd be interested to see how everyone else responds to it. Okay, first of all, Gabe Kapler is, in some way, shape, or form, what a lot of Philadelphia fans wanted the last couple of years, because one of the talked about trends that's happened over the course of the last, say 6-7 years, is that the Philadelphia Phillies, they're not on board with analytics, and baseball's doing analytics, and the Philadelphia Phillies are not doing analytics. I myself am not an analytics head, but a lot of people wanted the Phillies to join the analytics train. Okay, and Gabe Kapler is not only he's the analytics train, rocket ship, car,
Staff record label
scooter, skateboard, whatever you can qualify as a vehicle. Gabe Kapler is riding that vehicle. He is the head, basically like Billy Bean Part 2 of analytics. So all right. So the Phillies hire this analytics guy, Gabe Kapler, and everything that he's done to date, which has not been very many dates, is been driven by analytics. His analytics has driven the makeup of the roster and how many bullpen folks they brought up out of camp to versus their bench. Every move that he's made thus far, pulling pitchers, starting lineups, they've all been analytics driven. And a lot of people who are sandbagging Gabe Kapler right now, and I'm not like in love with Gabe Kapler or anything like that. When they hired him, I was definitely scratching my head because I thought they were going to try to go with more of like a tenured person. But this is what a lot of people in Philadelphia wanted, an analytics guy, and this is what you get. And now he pulled, basically he pulled Aaron Nola in game one, and he's never going to live it down. And everything has been snowballing from there. The reason that he pulled Aaron Nola was, and I don't agree with it, but one of the main concepts of analytics baseball is do not, your pitchers, your starting pitchers' effectiveness goes down every third time that a baseball player faces you on the mound. So he had a 5-0 lead in the fifth, something like that. Anyhow,
I think it was a sixth.
He had what he considered to be, and again, I don't agree with the move, but he had why he did it was because he had a 5-0 lead halfway through the game with a team that's not, even though they have some nice bats in the lineup, not expected to be a very good team. But he pulled Aaron Nola because he had a 5-0 lead. He really believes in his bullpen. The bullpen, in some people's minds, is supposed to be the strength of this team. I never really kind of agreed with that, but in Gabe Kapler's mind, the bullpen is the strength of the team. He pulled him out because he had a 5-0 lead. He wanted to turn it over to his bullpen. We all know how it ended up, and since then, every single solitary move that he's made has been over-magnified. And at this point, the Phillies are 3-5, and I think they're still allowed in Major League Baseball. So I don't, it's just typical. Like I said in the very beginning, which was now an hour and 40 minutes ago. It's Philadelphia looking for public enemy number one.
Is it on me?
You like it?
I don't like it. So basically, the reason why this becomes interesting all of a sudden is because you just sat there and watched someone that's heavy analytical that won the Super Bowl for you guys, the first one ever.
Right.
So at that point, you at least semi keep an open mind going into it. Now, you're like Stevie Wonder. You can see when some shit goes wrong. That Stevie Wonder can see too. And the fact that you sit there and bringing pictures in without warming up, shit like that, like a little bit in over his head. Don't know if that's going to be the case the whole entire time, but I guess the question for that one is analytics for a 16-game season and playoff versus analytics for 182. Is that the number? 181. 162. Sorry. And whatever. Is that going to work long term for what they're doing, or are you going to sit there and get tired of it from Rick?
I'm not, me personally, and I would like to hear everyone else's opinion on this, but I'm not, analytics, I feel like has its place. I don't want my team driven by analytics. That's just me. Especially when it comes to baseball.
You won the Super Bowl for analytics.
Fine. But when it comes to baseball, it's just, I will never be fully invested in analytics because of all major sports, maybe even all sports in general. Of all sports in general, I'll give golf and baseball the same plateau. And, whatever your definition of sports is, maybe billiards. So let's go golf, baseball, and billiards. They are the games that will actually beat you. The game will beat you. You could go out and friggin' be the most dominant person of all time, but when it comes to baseball,
okay, so you just set them as individual sports.
No. Well,
golf,
yeah, but baseball is a team sport. It's a team sport of individuals.
But golf and billiards
it's still a team sport.
So let's keep it. I'm fine with keeping this just to baseball.
Okay.
Let's look at baseball, basketball, football, and hockey.
Okay.
Baseball is clearly that's the sport where the game can beat you. You could go out there and be lights out. You could be the best player of all time, but the game could find a way to beat you much more quickly than the others. That's why I don't like analytics driving baseball, because the game is like an entity.
I would give that for anything except basketball.
Because basketball, you can measure. Okay,
basketball, you only have 5 you have to worry about.
But someone's a poor shooter. Someone doesn't pass well. You know what I mean? Like you could be the best hitter of all time.
You get that. The other, whether baseball, football, whatever. You get the other sports too. But it's just a numbers game at that point. You got 5 they have to worry about for basketball on the court at the same time versus for one team versus 11 or whatever for the other team.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. In basketball, football, and hockey, you can trust the numbers more. If someone's showing you a trend,
and I completely listen to this wrong.
Possibly.
Okay, I'll probably listen to it wrong then.
I'm saying so. Let me try to say one more time. When it comes to analytics, okay, and analytics placed in sports, I feel like analytics should have the smallest part in baseball because baseball, as a game and as a sport, has the highest chance of beating. The game itself can beat you.
Oh, I totally missed that one then. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, so the game can beat
Simple
you.
play, you're right.
So analytics should not be
My bad.
a huge part of baseball. But that's just my opinion. Like analytics should not rule baseball. But I don't know. Where do you guys?
I think someone wrote a book about it.
It's based on percentages. Your hitting percentage, your batting percentage. It's all statistics. So why wouldn't the game be based on?
Only because, and again, I mean, all sports are based on statistics, right? We keep box scores, we track numbers,
Right.
we judge players on numbers. You know what I mean? Because you can't watch every game, you can't be at every game, you can't give the eye test to everybody. So yeah, so all sports keep stats, and we make a lot of decisions based on stats. But to me, if you really get into the nitty-gritty of analytics and you believe in it to the point that it determines how you set your lineups, you know what I mean, how you pick your players, all this stuff. To me, baseball is the most dangerous sport to rely on analytics because the game itself can beat you. You know, you could, if you just. You could pick any Major League Baseball player, just whatever, and you could wait till the end of the year. Okay, and at the end of the year, you could see whatever his batting average is, whatever his RBIs are, whatever his home runs were.
I disagree.
But you could say, but if you looked at the tape, right? Let's say it's a bad player. Let's say it's someone who's hit 100, 150. Okay, so you go. I'm going to analyze this guy. He hit 150. He had a terrible number of RBIs, and he didn't score any runs. So 3 pretty key stats. His on-base percentage stunk. You'd have to, the minutia that you have to go through is like, okay, he might have batted 150, but how many balls did he hit hard that were just foul? That if they went, a foot the other way, and same thing with good players. You could take a player who has a 300 average and break him down to someone who was like, oh, he had, out of his 200 hits, 100 of them were just inside the foul line. Like they were just, luck comes into play. Like they could have been 150 average as quickly as they could have been a 300 average. That's the only reason why I think analytics is dangerous in baseball because the game can beat you, and you just got to use the eye test more than analytics.
So what I'm going to say is that maybe they could turn the music up a little bit.
Meatloaf?
Speak over it. Say it with your chest.
I got it. What I'm going to say, though, is that this is the first year that you're saying that the Phillies are using analytics. We are 8 games into the season. 8, period. That's it. It's 5% of the season that's been played, 8 into 162. So all the statistics may be telling you to do certain things, and this guy, Kapler,
yeah.
however you say, is brand new. So the training wheels are on. He'll eventually figure out how to ride it, but everybody's got to relax. I was at the game last night. We were up 20 to fucking 1.
Yeah.
Sorry, are we allowed to swear on this podcast? Ish.
It's happened.
It's
happened once in a while.
People were booing. I
tell my kids not to
we
leave
are
this week.
winning
That's-
20 to 1. Relax.
That's Philadelphia.
I totally understand
Were you in the
that.
Villanova section?
I was wearing my sweater, actually. Sweater vest. Yes, that's right, with the big V on the front. So, but the reality is, it's like, listen, Doug Peterson, he was 7-9 the first year he was here.
Right.
He figured it out. Right now, we haven't had a winning season for a while for the Phillies. Let the guy figure it out.
I agree. Doug Peterson caught a lot of hell.
Absolutely.
This is Philadelphia.
Totally
This is
understand.
Philadelphia.
I've been
Yeah.
to many games. I am a fan. I watch, but
I'm rooting for Gabe Kapler now. I was totally surprised by his hiring. I'm generally neutral to him. I haven't really formed a full opinion
very
yet.
tan.
He is.
And he wears aviators, which is crazy.
So Paulie
But I'm
the
rooting
DJ
for
from
him at
Jersey
this point.
Shore
Yeah.
is your manager.
Oh yeah!
It's t-shirt time, bitches.
Cavs are here.
But I agree. I mean, it's just, you got to give the guy time.
I think he came in the opening day, and I don't think this is a Philadelphia thing. I think this is baseball in general. Baseball, I would assume, I don't know this, but I would assume baseball has the oldest demographic of any of the four majors.
Probably
It
say,
has
it's probably
to
say,
be. Where did you go?
that's going
I
to change
think
soon. That's going to change. But for now, yeah.
So right now they don't. Well, I don't think when 25 games on Facebook's going to change that a year. But that demographic's already kind of not behind this, not behind it to begin with.
Right.
And pulls the pitcher and then throws out the stat. Well, every pitcher when they face someone. So does that mean that no starting Philly pitcher is ever going to face the rotation for a third time? I mean, is that what we need to look for?
Probably not.
If he's pitching a perfect
that's-
game,
I mean, if it's, but and again, I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm not saying I don't necessarily agree with that. But yes, maybe if he's throwing a no-hitter, maybe if it's nothing. But I can guarantee you this: whether it's Aaron Nola, Jake Arrieta, or if they friggin' pick up Robin Roberts and put him on the mound.
Well, Robert Roberts threw 30 complete games a year.
If a starting pitcher,
Kind of hard to,
He wasn't too bad.
kind of hard to mess
if a
with.
starting pitcher has a sizable lead and is going his third time through the rotation, as long as this bullpen remains not a disaster, the analytics are going to tell Gabe Kapler that you want to start integrating more pitchers and seeing different pitches. Seeing different pitches. I don't agree with it, but that's what analytics will tell you.
The second most egregious thing he did is he pulled Rhys Hoskins out because he's a defensive liability.
That I think was worse. I think that was worse because at some
He's your best power bat. He's probably the best hitter on the team.
Set my head
that I have more of a problem with because at the end of the day, even though I don't agree with Aaron Nola being pulled when he was pulled, you should be able to rely on your bullpen holding up a 5-0 lead. I do think that the Rhys Hoskins move was.
I have an easy solution to that. If he's a defensive liability, play him at the position he's played all through the minors and college.
First base.
Put him at first base.
Right. At some point,
let's just experiment at throwing him in the outfield and then pulling your best bat off the field.
That's GM conversation.
Well, it is. And then GM hired the coach. So.
Yeah. But no,
I'm not trying to run him out of town.
No. I think the Rhys Hoskins move was worse. Was way worse. And people aren't holding on to that. They're holding on to the Nola thing, and I don't agree with. Again, can't say it enough. I didn't agree with the Nola being pulled, but yeah, I think the Rhys Hoskins thing was worse.
You know when the analytics are great? When they work.
When they were.
Look, I mean, we all love Peterson and his analytics. Why?
Because it
Because he had a
works.
friggin' parade. Okay? That's what it comes down to. If this guy delivers a title in the next few years, this conversation's moot. But I'll tell you what, she's dead on right. You know how I know that? It's way too early to worry about any of this. You know how I know that? Because I turned on my baseball app just now and I looked at the standings. You know who's at the top? The Mets. That means nothing matters yet. Okay?
My entire team sucks.
There you go. When the baseball season starts to matter, when the games start to count, the Mets will be at the top of the standings. You want to know when baseball matters? Open up your app. If you see the Mets at the top of the standings, it doesn't matter.
So basically, once the
I
national
gotta
theory
tell you
goes
though,
down.
I mean,
What'd you say? NBA Finals?
Yeah.
That's probably when you'll see them start to do the cliffhanger thing from Price is Right. Yeah, they go over the edge right around that time.
Yeah.
all right, well,
4th of July is like kryptonite for the Mets.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I mean, I don't know how they're going to lose this division. Analytically speaking, and physically speaking, I don't know how they're
The Nats are going to win that division.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, the Nationals, it's been their division to win or lose for the last 7 years. They've done very little.
I think it's going to be the former win.
Although, I do think the Nationals do have a better chance without Jason Worth. I'll at least give them that much.
Call it what you want. That Harper guy is not too bad.
He doesn't suck.
Nah.
The pitchers are pretty good.
And don't yell at him overrated before he says he swings a bat either.
All right, well, we're creeping up on the 2-hour mark here. We're about to wear out our welcome. Any parting shots before we give this thing a rest?
Don't boo. We're better than that.
Beyond
We're
booing.
champions. We're world fucking champions. Stop with the booing in Game 5.
Don't move, throw rocks.
Conor McGregor, stop throwing rails through bus windows.
If you want to piggyback on that with Floyd, you don't want that smoke, bro. Don't go there. Stay with your 51 and whatever and 0 and let it go. You don't want to go into the UFC at all. Trust me, bro. They're looking for you to lose. And I'm not trying to fight everyone out here in the streets these days. White, Hispanic, whatever. Continue on. Only last night I was trying to fight people.
I guess I'll do a UFC thing too. So they're counting on a 41-year-old former WWE champion. Save the day, huh?
Good figure.
Yeah.
Does he drop the strap tonight?
It sure looks that way.
Oh, absolutely.
And then he's got to wait another 6 months to get a fight. It's not been a good week for the UFC.
Those suspensions are tough.
Yeah.
I'm jonesing for another parade, so I really don't care who brings it to me, even if it's the Haverford College squash team. I'm in.
We got to get it on
I
record.
would take that
right?
for Villanova.
Now, if
First of all,
Mike,
that's
Mike,
13 miles
if the Sixers
outside
win the
of
title,
So
Wait, they're
you're
closer
totally
than they're
screwed.
closer than Nova.
I know, I don't know.
Contradicting yourself.
if the Sixers win the title, Mike, it's not a parade. It's a
Procession.
procession.
Rob Seaver, he's working on the shirt. He's working on the shirts.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Team Colangelo, sign it off.
Yeah, whatever, motherfucker. Peace.
Thanks to Capone's for having us. We will be here soon if we don't
Get
get
kicked
ourselves
out.
thrown out. Good night.
There's this.
He would not lie. He's such a good guy.